Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Saviors of Uldum. This is the big card review. These are the explorers. They revealed all of them at the same time, and we got some bonus legendary at the end for you guys. So this is basic. If you're going to watch any card review, this is the one, so watch it in full. First off, we have Reno the Relicologist. He does relics, basically. I don't know why I even bother with names, because apparently I'm terrible at them. But regardless, he's a 6-mana 4/6, so it turns out after years of exploring, he hasn't really gotten any stronger. His effect is pretty interesting. It's not quite heal to full, but it does a pretty good job of clearing the board. This Reno Jackson is a mage card. Okay, you cannot play this in any deck that you want. Well, unless there's another card that allows you to do that, in which case, well, I don't know, because we still have a lot of cards left in the expansion, and craziness might just happen, I suppose. So it requires that you have a singleton deck, and we can talk about that because, as you'll see, the other explorers require the same. Singleton decks in Hearthstone are very fun in the first maybe week or two of the expansion because at that point in the game, people are actually trying to figure out how to best make a singleton deck. A singleton deck is a deck with one-ups, basically enabling this card. Now, this only requires that the remainder of your deck has no duplicates. So in some cases, if you're able to play like a really slow control deck, sometimes you can play these type of singleton requirement cards in decks that have cards with multiple copies. That's possible, but, you know, we're talking about very fringe situations. In general, it's a really fun deck building challenge for the first few weeks, but also you have to keep in mind, a few weeks into an expansion, the stats come in, the decks come in, people, play in tournaments, they know what the best decks are, and in that environment, when the best decks are known, when they're figured out, singleton decks are not that interesting to play against because the best way to typically, not always, play against a singleton deck is by never playing around anything. Because on average, they don't have that specific card because they're half as likely as if they were playing a normal deck. So singleton decks, I think, might not be the best for tournament play and high-level legend play. But for us, we play for 2 weeks while we play all the different new decks and all that. It's going to be awesome. So I don't mind it as much, and it's certainly going to make Arena much more interesting if you're able to pick one of these cards up in the early stages of drafting. For now, the card Reno, how good is he? He does 10 damage. But unlike other arcane missile-like effects, if you read the text specifically, it can only target minions. So it always does 10 into minions. It can't go 9 face and then you just concede out of rage. That can't happen. It can only hit minions. So 10 minion damage, it's probably not that random. As a mage, you're pretty likely to be able to set that up. So Reno the Relic dude, he's basically just a board clear. 6 mana, 4/6, probably and just about in all cases clear the board. If you're playing a mage with reasonable control options, you're playing a singleton deck, so you're probably doing just that. In terms of the power level of such a card, I think it's relatively high, but it's very difficult to really say with much certainty if a singleton deck of any one class can be played because, well, there's just so much tweaking that needs to happen before we get there. You can't really imagine these singleton decks very easily because there's just so much that you can do. There, 30 different cards as opposed to 15 to, 17 different cards. Very, very different and a lot of work to get there. Next up, we have Dinotamer Brann. It's a 7-cost 2/4, and if your deck has no duplicates, so same requirement, you summon King Crush. That's right, the King Crush. So is that good? Yeah, it's obviously good, but I fear that a singleton hunter deck is quite a challenge. Typically the singleton format, you can't play them aggressively because you're not consistently getting that awesome early game opener. So it's not just can you play a singleton hunter, it's can you play control hunter with only singletons. That's a pretty tough requirement, and I don't think my imagination quite stretches far enough to give you guys an answer with much certainty, but if I had to guess, I think that is not particularly viable. It's going to be a lot of work. And maybe someone will figure it out to like a tier 1 deck. It's possible, but I think it does not look that promising. The other classes are more promising because the other classes can typically play control pretty well. With Hunter, it's pretty hard to do that, especially with the fact that you'll be playing singletons. But if there's perhaps some minion search mechanics, maybe more so than what we have right now, maybe that has some added consistency. Next up, we have Elise. Elise the Druid can now play Elise the Druid card. I imagine there is some kind of different, Easter egg play animation. You play Elise as Elise. I hope so, at least. It's a 5 mana 5/5, so the stats are actually pretty decent. And once again, if you have no duplicates in your deck, you duplicate your hand. That's pretty interesting. Now, Druid is certainly capable of playing a control game plan. They just haven't yet. Now, typically when Druids play control, they typically have some kind of combo attached to that deck. Now, those combo options just doubled up. The fact that you can duplicate your hand enables you to have so many more combos than you previously had. Even something as dumb as like Malygos Double Moonfire, hitting for 12. Now, Malygos Quadruple Moonfire hits for 24. Yeah. Now, okay, you can't use 2 Moonfires, but perhaps you can discover it. Perhaps you can have some other combo pieces in there. Actually, you probably could use Double Moonfire. If you're playing a combo deck as Druid with control, I think you can use Double Moonfire because you're just going to control your opponent until you draw all of your deck. So if you're going to draw all of your deck, you can actually play duplicates, especially in a combo situation. So basically, just from this short analysis of this card, the possibilities of Elise the Enlightened are truly endless. So there's a lot of stuff that can be done, and theory crafting this card would certainly be a lot of fun. Next up, Sir Finley. Paladin gets Sir Finley for some reason. I don't know exactly why. I guess Paladins had like small Murlocs and stuff around that time. Sure. 2 cost 2, 3. Of course he's a Murloc. The battlecry, if your deck has no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power. So you get those super juiced up hero powers. Now, Paladin has traditionally, as you might know with Baku and Odd Paladin in the recent years of Hearthstone, Paladin with the upgraded hero power is basically game breaking. Now, the difference is that with a card like Baku, you're getting that effect automatically, and you can tailor your deck around it. With Sir Finley, you have to play no duplicates, which is pretty tough for an aggressive deck. And you also need to actually play Sir Finley. The effect doesn't happen automatically. And when it does, you might just get 3 pretty crap hero powers that don't work with your deck. Now, obviously, all the upgraded hero powers are good, but because you don't choose which specific one you're going to get out of the 9 options, you can't tailor your deck to synergize off of it. So I think Sir Finley is probably a little bit on the weaker side of things, but opposed to the other cards that require singletons, Aggro Paladin does actually have a ton of options. There are so many, fairly mediocre, I would say, but there's so many. Quantity-wise, there's so many options for aggro paladin players to play minions and stuff, which means that the cost of having a singleton paladin deck as opposed to like a singleton control hunter or something, it's much more likely that you can pull that off in terms of overall deck card quality. Paladin has just better options and more options for early game than the other singleton cards in general. So I'm optimistic that this card can see some play on that end, but on the other, I think the effect is just not strong enough to warrant it. The reason I'm mentioning that is on one day, we literally got all of the explorers revealed to us, and they all have no duplication in your deck as a requirement. So if we've seen 4 cards with, the non-duplicate rule, maybe we'll see more. Maybe we'll see more Paladin cards that make this worth playing. If we get 1 or 2, I think it might just be pretty damn good. Last card today is Armagedillo. It's like Armageddon Armadillo, basically. Close enough. It's a 6 mana 4/7 taunt and a beast. Is that good? That is good enough, I would say. And it has an end of turn effect. At the end of turn, give all taunt minions in your hand +2/+2. So end of turn, recurring, win more effects in Hearthstone, particularly in control classes. And as you might know, Warrior is capable of playing control pretty nicely. So cards like this, cards that fit this, parameter set, they're really good historically in Hearthstone. So Armagedillo, I think, is going to be a pretty easy 5-star card. Control Warrior is very good class. Imagine, buffing your Ziliax and another taunt minion at the end of each turn. Obviously, you can't protect Armagedillo from dying because he itself has taunt. But on the other hand, just getting that trigger once makes the card really good already. So there's not much effort involved in getting a, proper value session out of this card. You just play it with a taunt or two in your hand, and it's crazy good. Simple as that. If they don't remove it, you win the game. If they do remove it, well, you just played a 4/7 taunt. That's still buffed other taunts later. There's just nothing that can go wrong with that. For now, that's what we got. 5 legendaries for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the review, and make sure to check out this channel for more.